What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, Joker back again, once again. So, in the latest Bungie weekly update, design lead Josh Hemrick took to the blog to outline sandbox changes coming to Destiny 2. Now, before we get started unpacking all of these changes, I do think it's important to keep in mind that these are proposed changes. They're things that the team wants to do, they're things that the team's working on, but that doesn't mean they'll end up in the game. And I think that's important to keep in mind going forward, because they can say things like, we're going to make the attack animation faster. We're going to make the dodge animation faster. We're going to increase the range on all attacks for the Arcstrider Super. They can say that all day. They can say that till they're blue in the face. But until it's in the game, it doesn't mean shit. I bring that up not to rain on anybody's parade, but because that's what Josh himself echoes, stating, "There," meaning the changes, "are not guaranteed to ship, but the outlook is good at this point." Essentially what I'm saying is this: be hopeful for the changes if you must. There are a few things on this list that I'm quite interested in myself, but approach it with a cautious optimism until we have more information or until the changes are in the game and set in stone. I wanted to go ahead and put that out there because we're going to be looking at the changes on this list in groups. Interesting changes, bad changes, and changes that I just need more information about. So without further ado, let's dive in. The first category, the changes that I'm interested in, require a bit of reading between the lines, hence why I'm interested in them. The internal name for the update is called the Go Fast update, and some of the choice quotes put together with the changes start painting a rather intriguing picture. Towards the end of the post, Josh takes a moment to talk about shoulder charge, stating, "Finally, the shoulder charge changes that went in a couple months ago have been fully reverted. Shoulder charge's movement utility was perceived to be more valuable than its damage utility, which made it feel bad to actually hit somebody with shoulder charge. The movement was effectively a free dodge." Believe me, we'll come back to how stupid that is later, but like real talk, did you read that sentence and then read that sentence? Shoulder charge feels bad to actually hit somebody with, but it's a free dodge. No, it's not a free dodge. Nobody wants to hit anybody with shoulder charge. Titans lose their melee ability so that they can have shoulder charge, so that they can have this air quote free, air quote dodge. Moving forward. The post continues. The target of the untargeted distance nerf was to discourage using the ability as a movement mode by making it only effective when using it against enemies. In retrospect, we think this change was a mistake, no you think? And we've heard you all say the same. We believe that there are a number of gameplay atoms, like this, that perform or are used differently than we expected, but are thoroughly enjoyed nonetheless. In the future, we want to embrace the state of gameplay atoms like that and balance around it, not against it. Now first off, I think this shines a glaring spotlight on the way that Bungie approaches changes to the sandbox. Shoulder charge in Destiny 2 is currently one of the worst abilities in the game, desperately over-nerfed from its Destiny 1 counterpart. Now, for those of you new to Destiny, because there are a lot of you, in Destiny 1, shoulder charge was a one-hit kill melee, with a handful of qualifiers. First, to activate it, you had to be sprinting until you entered the activation window. Once you entered the activation window, you had a very small time frame in which you could hit somebody and get a one-shot kill. Now that sounds overpowered, and by the end of Destiny 1's life cycle it was. But not because shoulder charge in and of itself was OP, but because every counter that was in the game, blink, shotguns, assault rifles, the last word, etc., had been nerfed into the ground. Shoulder charge in Destiny 1 was also primarily used as a movement ability, to help chain together jumps in what was known as Titan skating. Basically, Titans and Warlocks had this way of chaining together their jumps to move across the map in a blink of an eye. Needless to say, Hunters, pretty much exclusively only Hunters, found this to be kind of a divisive thing because, well, it made Warlocks and Titans way faster than Hunters. At the same time, this wasn't just something you could do. You had to learn it, you had to master it. This was a skill, and it created a skill gap, something that's desperately missing from Destiny 2. The one-hit kill melee aspect of shoulder charge was often nothing more than a cool extra, until the CQC in Destiny was so nerfed into the ground that it allowed Titans to seem rather overpowered by comparison. I think one of the biggest issues with the Destiny 1 sandbox by the end of its life cycle was that Bungie never rebalanced the entire thing at once. They rebalanced a lot, but there was always unforeseen consequences to that rebalancing. And yes, a lot of this did just come from bad game design. I always point to shotguns in Destiny 1 as a great example of bad game design. By no stretch of the imagination should there be a one-hit kill shotgun type weapon with enough range to cross-map somebody. One of the biggest defenders was a shotgun known as Fellwinter's Lie. The joke was, of course, that the lie was that it was a shotgun at all, when in fact it was a sniper rifle that just so happened to look like a shotgun. Anyways, Shoulder Charge going from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2 underwent several different changes. Basically, the damage was nerfed so that it was only slightly more than a regular melee. It was also now a charge-based ability, with no activation window timeout, and it had various different effects added to it based on the subclass you were using. Seems like an okay trade-off, right? The only problem is, 9 times out of 10 when you use Shoulder Charge as a melee ability, it will get you killed. The animation takes forever to resolve. You have to charge sprinting headlong at an opponent, hoping they don't notice you, and when you hit them, you just kind of bounce off them impotently. So when the design team says Shoulder Charge's movement utility was perceived as more valuable than its damage utility, no shit, Sherlock, that's absolutely correct. Because, gasp, shock, there was no damage value there at all. The risk-reward calculation that Destiny 1 Shoulder Charge had no longer existed, because the ability was tipped more in favor of punishing the user than rewarding them. That said, in Destiny 2, Shoulder Charge still had the utility as a movement ability, which is important because when the dev team says the movement was effectively a free dodge, that couldn't be further from the truth, and shows that they have no idea what they're talking about. It's not a free dodge, not by any stretch of the imagination. It's a useless melee ability, so in essence, every Titan who uses Shoulder Charge is giving up their melee ability for a movement ability. And ask Voidwalkers just how vital to a build a melee ability can be. So as glad as I am to hear that they are reverting the Destiny 2 nerf to the distance when charging without an acquired target, I simply can't understand how they thought this was a good idea to begin with. And their justification falls apart if you just think about it for 2 seconds. An excessively long-winded Shoulder Charge explanation out of the way, why is this important? Well, in the update, Josh states, in the future, we want to embrace the state of gameplay atoms like that and balance around it, not against it. Keep that in mind. The second thing to note is they want to increase the overall speed of how players move. To help accomplish this, they're retuning 5 jumps, all 3 glides, plus catapult and strafe lift. So let's start putting 2 and 2 together. 1, they want to make things faster. 2, they want to embrace things that the community figures out how to do and balance around it, not against it. 3, they're undoing the untargeted range nerf to the activation of Shoulder Charge. And 4, they are retuning both catapult and strafe lift. That sounds an awful lot like they're bringing Titan skating back. And that really is the creme de la creme of this update, the possibility that Titan skating and Warlock skating will return to the game. Everything else but the heavy ammo changes, which we'll get to in a second, we need more information. For example, the update says, we've buffed several weapon archetypes, including but not limited to hand cannons, pulse rifles, sniper rifles, and shotguns, and a few specific perks as well. A key goal here is to make shotguns, snipers, and fusion rifles more prevalent in the game. So, a couple things here. Hand cannons and pulse rifles need to be reworked altogether. Everything from aim assistance to hit detection to ghost bullets to how much damage they do, it all needs thrown out and reworked. Hand cannons were at their best during Year 1 House of Wolves. Kind of the same thing for pulse rifles, only make that like Update 1 Taken King. So yeah, if you could get hand cannons and pulse rifles somewhere in the neighborhood of their best iterations, that would be a sight to behold. So yeah, I'm glad that they're looking at the higher skilled underperforming weapons, and I'm also glad that they're looking at supers. But until we get more information about these things, it's like, okay, that's cool, I guess. Now we come to the last change. Remember that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? And now we come to the last change. Anybody remember the rockets only game type from Halo? Well, so does Bungie apparently, and they really wanted to bring it back. One of the more amusing changes that they talked about throughout the update was how they wanted to make snipers, fusion rifles, and shotguns more prevalent again. But the truth of the matter is, as long as those weapons share the same weapon slot as a rocket launcher, they will always be second fiddle. And this is coming from a guy who actively prefers to use a fusion rifle. But until there is a separation there, and even after that, rockets will still be the primary heavy weapon of choice for the vast majority of the player base. And that just makes sense. Now with that in mind, rockets, for me at least, are one of the most annoying aspects of Destiny 2 PvP. It's this chaotic element that you can't really do anything about, other than perhaps control the spawn. I mean, rockets are just one of those things that it's like, you could be decimating an entire team, and if you get killed by one, it sucks, right? Like, there goes your streak. Rockets aren't good, it's not like impressive, it's just like one of those things, it's like, okay, that happened, that was annoying. It's just good enough to be annoying. That's all it is. That's all rockets are, they're just good enough to be annoying. At the same time though, when you compare it against everything else in that weapon slot, it is the best choice. If you have something like Sins of the Past, there's absolutely no reason not to use it. It is the best option. So what does Bungie go ahead and decide to do? Well, they decided to increase how much heavy ammo you get by making it spawn faster. Now, depending on the playlist, heavy ammo will spawn 25 to 40% faster than it already does. And if you kill somebody with heavy ammo, then you can go and pick their heavy ammo up for 30 seconds after their death. So pretty much like Mayhem or Destiny 1 Year 1, I just really see this turning all of Destiny's PvP into a Rockets playlist, more so than it already is. Out of all of the changes, this is the oddest one. If their goal was to decrease the time to kill, well, I guess rockets flying everywhere at all times will certainly do that. I think what they hoped would happen, because there's more heavy ammo now, is that this will incentivize people to use other heavy weapons other than rockets. More so if they tune how much ammo you get per brick accordingly based on the weapon you're using. But anyone with a brain sees how this ends. It's not going to incentivize people to use anything other than rockets, it's going to increase the use of rockets. The only thing that will decrease the use of rockets is competition within that weapon slot, which there currently is none. Overall, I'm lukewarm with these changes. These aren't the type of changes that make me think, you know, maybe I should jump on Destiny 2 immediately and grind out Masterwork cores or something. I mean, they're nice quality of life changes for people who like Destiny 2 as it is, but it's not anything that's gonna draw people back immediately, especially in the numbers that I think they hope it will. Bungie and Destiny 2 as a whole needs to worry about sweeping changes, not these little sandbox tweaks. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below, and like always, stay frosty.